Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Thank you so much for coming by Surviving New England. I'm Dave, and I got a great story, a true story of survival. And I know that it's true because it happened to me. It was something that I was prepared for without even realizing it. It was in 2018, it was January of this year, and a nor'easter was coming through New England, and it was predicted to hit. We knew, I knew that this was going to be a really bad storm, 2.5, 3 feet of snow in a short period of time. So I planned this hike a couple of days before. Um, to my family wasn't too happy about it. They're like, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "Listen, this is something I have to do. I had never hiked in a blizzard before, and I wanted to kind of prove to myself, you know what I mean, that what I've learned the past few years, that I have what it takes to do this and to come out on the other end no worse for wear, and to kind of prove my salt right to myself only." So I prepared for this. I had all my gear ready. I went out to the state forest that I planned to hike. I knew where I was going to hike. I knew what trail. I knew my hike out, and I had planned my return trip, which way I was going to go. I was going to go out a couple of miles to a certain spot near a lake, and then just do a turnaround and follow my own tracks right back out of the woods, right the way I came in. So I get to the state park, and the blizzard is underway. About 4 inches of snow, and there was a dusting when I left my house, and it's only a 20-minute drive. So it was accumulating pretty fast. I get to the state park, into the parking lot, and there is not a soul there. I was surprised that the gate was open to the park. I park my vehicle, I get out, I get all my gear on, I throw on a backpack. Now, this backpack I had was brandy spanking new. I just bought it at a gun show about a month prior. I had never used it, and I said I liked it. It had a couple of features on it that I liked. It actually had a handle on it that was almost like a briefcase type bag, but it had the straps, and it was accordion style. You could pack it with a few things, and it was nice, but it also came way out, and you could unhook the side straps, and you could put a lot of gear in this backpack. And I loved it. It was just an OD green, and I loved it. This thing was great. I said, I'm going to test this thing out today during this blizzard. That was a big mistake that I would soon learn later on in my hike. So I brought with me more than I needed. And I often will say that I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And in this case, that rang true. And I believe that it saved my life. And that's the truth, what I believe. So here's how it went. I step out of my vehicle, get all my gear on. I was wearing a jacket that was water resistant. It wasn't waterproof. It was a work jacket, a high visibility, like bright fluorescent green, high visibility work jacket. I wanted that high visibility color because of the wind driven snow. I could be seen. If something ever happened, you could see me clearly. During the winter, there's no foliage except for the pine needles and stuff that they don't drop in the winter, but all the foliage was gone, so you could see me from a distance in this high visibility jacket, and that's really what I wanted. I had a sweatshirt underneath, a hooded sweatshirt on top of that, and 2 t-shirts underneath that. In my backpack, I had already had a high visibility orange, hunter orange sweatshirt. I also had a pullover hoodie, work sweatshirt. It said, where I work and stuff like that. And I had an LL Bean button-up flannel hooded shirt. And I stuffed all that stuff inside the bag. I had wool socks I had put in there and dry gloves. And then the 5Cs, all that stuff. I had fire lighting material, and I was prepped for this. And I was gonna confront Mother Nature head on and say, "Give me your best shot, right? I can take it. I can take it." So I get out hiking, and then the snow was building up fast, and the direction I was hiking in, the snow was right at me. And I remember thinking at the time, man, I wish I had some ski goggles, because it was a really tough type. I had to lean my head into my hike, and I was getting a lot of the snow hitting my chest and building up on my shoulders. After about a mile, which took me forever to hike, by the way, just to hike that stupid mile, and the snow built up so quick. After about a mile, a little more than a mile, there was a foot of snow on the ground. Now, here's another mistake that I made. I have snowshoes, and I actually, when I got out of my van, I get all my gear together. I had the back doors open, and there's my snowshoes. It's not like I forgot them at home. I'm looking at them. I'm like, I don't want to stuff them into my bag. I don't know if I have room. Do I take out my dry clothes or extra layers and sacrifice the layers for the snowshoes? And I decided not to do that. I decided to leave the clothes in the bag and not take the snowshoes. That's a decision that I think may have saved me. But anyways, I set off about a mile or so, and I realized I can feel my shoulders and the front of my jacket I can feel moisture. And I'm sweating a little bit. So I unzip my jacket a bit, and I pull off my hoodie and take off my winter hat, because I don't want to sweat. If you sweat, you die. This was one of those nor'easter storms in New England that it was freezing cold. We get some storms up here in New England that it's just below freezing, and you can have 3 feet of snow. That's like a comfortable, nice, atmosphere for it not being so freezing. This particular storm, it was January this year, happened to be really cold. A cold and a strong blustery wind. The snow was sideways. Wind drifts were insane. I mean, I was going through wind drifts just after a mile, a little plus more than a mile. I was going through snow drifts that were above my knees. 2.5 foot snow drifts, 3 foot snow drifts. So as I started to feel myself getting wet, not only from sweating, but from my jacket that was water resistant, but I soon realized it wasn't going to work. That this was not the ideal jacket to be out in a blizzard, in a snowstorm. At least it wasn't New England rated, I can tell you that right now, because I lived through the stupid thing to tell about it. So I said, okay, I'm going to trudge on a little further. I'm going to look for a good spot to get my jacket off. And now my sweatshirt's wet underneath. I can feel the moisture and I'm starting to get chilly. So I trekked another half an hour, another probably half a mile. So I get about 1.5 miles, 1.75 miles when I'm thinking I need to stop. I'm starting to shiver. My hands are really cold. I'm wearing gloves, and my feet are really cold, and I know what's going on. My core temperature is starting to take heat from my extremities, so to keep my heart warm, or my inner core warm, right? So now, again, I'm a little nervous now. I'm like, all right, I got to stop somewhere, get the backpack off, get some dry clothes on, and I had a poncho as well. I forget, I got it at an Army Navy store, really nice poncho. I think was French or something like that. It wasn't even a U.S. made poncho, but nonetheless, it was a great poncho. It had eyelet holes in it, so you could actually use it as a shelter. Very well made, completely waterproof, right? So I should have wore that right when I got out of the van, but I didn't. So regardless, at this point, I said, I got to stop. So I'm going to start looking for a place where I can take my clothes off. Whatever I'm wearing up top, I got to get them off of me, because now I'm wet all around. So it takes me about 15 or 20 more minutes to spot this huge pine tree. And like the branches, the pine boughs are bent way down, and I can see a pocket underneath this pine tree. A big, big mother pine tree. I said, that's my opportunity right there. So I made my way off the trail at this point to get to this spot. And the snow now is a foot and a half, easily a 1.5 feet of snow. It's up to my shins. And I was like, God, I wish I had my snowshoes. Anyways, I get to the pine tree, and there's a gap between the snow and the actual branches. I had to almost roll over the snow to get into this. Once I was in it, I was amazed at the cover. It was like a big bowl all underneath the pine tree. I could stand up underneath it. There were some branches at shoulder height, but I found a little pocket, a little area where I could stand up straight as an arrow. I said, this is it. This is the spot. I got to get these wet clothes off. I reach up for the sternum strap to unbuckle the backpack. It's not happening. I can't get the sternum strap to unhook. It's just that very simple thing where you press on each side and it releases. It is not releasing. I'm like, okay, all right, relax, Dave. It's probably ice and stuff, and there was some ice and snow in it, and I'm picking it with my fingers. I got my gloves off and on a branch, and now my fingers are starting to freeze. So I'm picking at it, and I'm literally blowing my breath into it and cupping it to try to melt the ice and stuff. I'm thinking it's frozen. I got it clear and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, at this point, this is a malfunction. This is not iced up. So I grab both ends of the sternum strap, and I try to snap the connection with all my might. I am fighting this thing. Now I start to panic, real panic, and I'm sweating now. I'm sweating. I'm sweating, but yet my fingers are freezing, and my fingers are freezing cold. I can't do it. I said, you know what? I'm just going to cut the backpack. This backpack is a piece of crap anyways, because he's put me in this very, very dangerous situation. I'm close to 2 miles out, and I know that to get back to where I started, it's going to be double the time to get back because of the how deep the snow is. And I know about hypothermia and how quick it can take over, and you start to make really bad decisions, and that's when stuff starts going wrong. So I said, the heck with it, I'm cutting this thing. So I had this knife hanging off a MOLLE strap in the back of my backpack, hanging off the back of it like this. This is not the bag, but on the back it had MOLLE webbing like this, and I had it with the little button here, with this little snap weaved in, and it was hanging like that off my backpack. And I had another knife. I had this knife in the backpack, in one of the pouches. So I was fully prepared. I can't get the backpack off. Now I'm trying to reach that knife, my Gerber Prodigy, behind me like this. And I'm reaching, trying to just get it. So I'm just ready. I'm cutting this backpack off of me because now I'm really nervous. I can't reach it. I'm like, how can I be this dumb? And I'm panicking. I'm like, what am I going to do? During this panic, I never thought, I'm wearing a Leatherman Wave on my belt. I have a multi-tool right there. As I'm panicking, I said, stop. I had to stop myself. I said, think for a second. As I calm myself down, I said, what am I doing? I have a beautiful knife right on my hip. I pull my Leatherman out, grab the sternum strap, and cut the bag right off of me. I didn't give a crap about the bag at this point. And it had failed me a little earlier, the pull straps that tighten the backpack so you can lift it up and you kind of pull both ends. One of them kept coming loose and the backpack is sagging on me. I'm like, I spent $78 or something like that on this military backpack. Regardless of that, I did cut the backpack off. I get the backpack off and I hang it off of a branch. Now I've got to take all my clothes off from the top up. I was okay down low. I had thermals on, a couple pairs of pants. I was nice and warm, fairly dry down there. I wasn't worried about my legs wet. It was up here that I was making me nervous. Take the backpack off, and I'm peeling off layers that are soaking wet. I'm like, I'm freezing at this point. Thankfully, I'm out of the weather, so to speak, because of this pine tree, this beautiful, life-saving pine tree. I get my stuff off, dive into my bag. I'm shivering, and I've got a sweatshirt, and I think I just went through it. I had plenty of stuff. I had a dry sweatshirt, a dry hoodie. I had a dry LL Bean button-up flannel with a hood. And in there, I had a work shirt that was just way at the bottom of the bag because I often will carry an extra shirt to work in case I'm sweating and my shirt gets wet. I can just change it out. I was under that tree with no shirt on, nothing, bare to the weather, shivering, digging through, and I did. I got my stuff on, put on the t-shirt, put on the dry sweatshirt, threw the hoodie over me, grabbed the LL Bean thing. Oh, and I had a poncho with me as well, all packed into this bag. The bag was huge. Fortunately, the bag was big enough to fit all of this great life-saving stuff in it. I get all the sweatshirts on, get the flannel LL Bean on, and I take the backpack that's now no good because I cut the sternum strap right off of it, throw that over me, take the poncho and throw it over everything. And once I had done that, I'm shivering now. Even though I got all this stuff on, I'm shivering. I'm thinking to myself, I got to warm up. But I don't want to go back the way I came because now there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. Once I had gotten out from under that tree, there were 3.5-foot snow drifts. And I got no snowshoes. Like a maroon, I left them in my van because I didn't want to sacrifice the room of the dry clothes. Thankfully, I did that, but still. It's almost half a dozen of one and, 6 of the other. I didn't know. I'm glad I left them behind and I didn't pull out the dry clothes. I can tell you that. I know the area well, and I knew about a half a mile to my east, right? I had an access road that runs through the park. I said, if I can get to that access road, I think I can avoid the snow drifts because it's an open area of the road, and if the snow drifts to one side, I'll stay to the low side, right? I make it finally. After God knows how long, my trek back was more than double what it took me to get in there. I'm warmed up by now, I can tell you that. Just going through 2.5 feet of snow, 3 feet of snow drifts that are 4 feet. I might exaggerate, but some of the drifts were up to my hips that I would go around them and stuff, try to navigate. The wind is sideways in my face. I remember thinking I wish I had ski goggles, and I've got my head down and I'm walking. Very tough to navigate when you can't look directly where you're headed. During my hike, I kept hearing like a ski mobile or some sort of a motor. It had 3 times or so, 2 or 3 times I could hear I'm like, somebody lunatic is out here on a ski mobile or something. So I get to the access road and I step over this huge snowbank. The road had been plowed by the park ranger maybe an hour prior. So there was only 7 or 8, 10 inches of snow on the road. And as I got out and step onto the road, I look up the hill to get out of there. And I could see the park ranger is parked on the top of the hill. I could see the plow. I could see the white and the green logo, the state truck. And I'm looking and I see him back up and he disappears over the hill. I'm like, wow, this guy's out here plowing and there's nobody out here. I'm like, that's weird. It took me forever to trudge my way back to my van. I finally get back to the parking lot and my van is snowed in. It's almost 3 feet of snow all the way around my van and the park ranger's in the parking lot. I walk up to him. He rolls the window down. He goes, "You are one crazy dude." He said, "I had followed your trail a couple of times to make sure that you were not, something wasn't wrong with you. And then I got in my truck and I plowed the access road thinking that you would abandon the trail and go to the access road to get out because of the snow accumulation." He was dead on with that. I made my way to that access road as soon as I got out from under that tree and got those wet clothes off. And he was up on that hill waiting to see if I came out on the access road. And as soon as he saw me come out, he backed up and drove all the way back through the park and out to the parking lot. He had to plow me out so I could leave the parking lot. And I thanked him. I said, "Thank you very much. I thought somebody was out here in a ski mobile." And he had a four-wheeler that he was out there driving. Like, I don't know what kind of four-wheeler it was, but, thumb throttle, four-wheeler. I don't mean a truck or anything. I thanked him 100 times, and he he was like, I can't believe you came out here and all this stuff. And my family wasn't happy that I was doing it in the first place, but I wanted to take on, like I said, show Mother Nature I got what it takes. And Mother Nature punched me right in the mouth and said, no, 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 not so quick, Dave. And fortunately, I was prepared for this. I brought more than I needed. I brought stuff so I could have it. Even though I didn't need it, I had it on me. And I was so thankful that I lived by that mantra. I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. That was a scary moment. And I believe at that point under that tree, if I had not been able to get my backpack off, I don't know if I would have made it out. That park ranger probably would have had to come in and save my life, because I don't think I could have made it out. It took me, like I said, double the time to get the heck out of there. Way longer than it took me to hike in. Big lesson learned. What I learned and take from that lesson was that you don't go out into nature and fight Mother Nature. And it's not me against Mother Nature. It's, if Mother Nature is nice enough and I'm well enough prepared, I can coexist with Mother Nature. I can, you know what I mean? You can't go against Mother Nature. Certainly not in New England. Definitely not in a nor'easter, in a blizzard in southeastern Massachusetts. I wanted to tell that story because it's a good lesson learned. A good lesson learned for me, at least. Bring more than you need. In the winter like that, bring more than you need. If you feel like you can bring 12 ounces of water and that's enough, double that. I brought dry clothes, way more than I needed. I really felt, I brought those dry clothes with me in case I got cold. I could just keep layering. I never once thought I was going to use every article of clothing in there, except the socks. My feet were dry. I had nice Herman Survivor hiking boots, camouflage, nice boots. So my feet were dry. I never used the socks, but I used the spare gloves, and I used every single sweatshirt and t-shirt I had in that bag. Let that be kind of a lesson to you if you're just starting out hiking and stuff and junk. Take more than you need, because even if you don't need it, you have it. I was in such a panic. I never stopped to light that fire. I could have got a fire going underneath that tree. I could have, and I should have, to warm up. I was so cold because I was bare-skinned to the weather for a good 4 or 5 minutes as I was trying to stuff my clothes back in, the wet clothes in, dry clothes out, get that poncho, get everything on. I was out in the elements too long, and my core temperature, just all the heat was gone. And it took me some serious hiking to build that heat back up. And I will say I was scared. And thank you for Leatherman Wave, for that Leatherman that I carry on my hip. I have now for a couple of years. Without it, I'm not sure what I would have done. I guess I'm not sure. I'm just glad I had it. True story of survival in a New England blizzard. Thank you guys so much for coming by Surviving New England. I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely see you guys on the next one.